Hello and welcome to the next edition of The Conversation. My name's Graham, based in Manchester.
Hello, and I'm Malika, and I'm based in Norwich. We're really pleased to have you on this episode of The Conversation, aren't we, Graham?
We certainly are. It's been a bit of a fast-paced week again.
Yes, it has. What did you get up to this week, Graham?
Not much, pretty much the same things, I'm afraid. We're just getting ready for the 12th of April, which is coming up very soon.
It is, yeah. It's hard to believe it, isn't it? Yeah,
It
same
is.
here, same, just working. That's it. Story of my life.
That's
Work.
it. Work, sleep,
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah, indeed.
So last
So,
week we started our conversation around coronavirus and how people are responding to the pandemic and going to the future. So we had a really very quick, brief conversation really with Ricky about mental health, didn't we?
we did, and that was really interesting to hear the things we can do to get ready, to prepare ourselves to return to somewhat what one may argue is normality. Although what is normality now? Who knows?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said last week, we talked about it's the date, not the date. So, we pre-record these, so we're not too sure what's going to happen. But, I think a lot of people are just wanting to get back to some sense of normality. But, as we talked about, we're in a new sort of normal, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and completely having to redefine that with coronavirus that is still present in our day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. And I
So,
think, we've seen in the media that it's here to stay, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So just about that, about coronavirus, we've got a guest today that we want to bring on. And I'm going to introduce our guest today. That's all right, Graham, because
Absolutely.
it's one of my dearest friends, Joe. Joe and I go back a few years, and we've been doing an awful lot of work together, volunteering for some causes that we feel very passionate about. As you know, I'm an EU citizen, and Joe equally is an EU citizen. Joe works for the NHS and has an amazing perspective on things
Yeah.
because he's been on the front line of the fight against coronavirus in the ICU ward. So without further ado, Joe, it's a great pleasure to have you. Let's have you on.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm sorry about my hair, but with a lockdown, I look like a mad professor. But hopefully, as you say, this kind of normality will come in the next few months. But and the barbers will be open. But I
Absolutely.
agree with you. I agree with you. We need to be careful because if we make the same mistake we did last summer, we'll go back to another wave. We need to learn what happened in the past, and we need to learn how we can live with this virus. That we can go trying to live a life when we don't need to be afraid as we are now from this coronavirus.
Totally, Joe.
Yeah, I think you're completely right there, Joe, in terms of the fact that we need to learn from last summer. And obviously, we're not having a tiered approach this time around. It's the whole of England will be unlocked, so to speak, all at the same time. So I think it's just a bit of air of caution. And I've seen on social media people are so concentrating on the dates. And that's the focus, and I completely relate to why people have got that focus. But let's continue to behave really on our new behaviours, because people focus so much on the vaccine, the fact that that's it, it's done, but actually the vaccine just protects yourself, not others. You could carry the virus and give it to someone else who's not been vaccinated, for example.
Yeah, that's also my worry, that all the models that the government have done, if that they have forecasting that we will have a surge of cases, and also the people will die. And I found quite shocking this obsession by the government to want it to open before this summer, because at the end of the day, what kind of society are we living that we are happy to sacrifice some people for the fact that the majority of other people wants to have a normal summer and be able to go out? I found quite shocking and disturbing that we are happy to sacrifice people for the fact that the vast majority are fed up of being in the lockdown. I'm also fed up, but I want to do it properly. I want to make sure that when we open, the impact we have in people will be the minimum. And I don't think that having a fully open everything on the 21st of June is a good idea until we have at least 70% of the people vaccinated. And then we need to carry on with some measurements. And we cannot discard going back to local lockdowns that happened, for example, in New Zealand or Australia, that when some cases are, pop up, then we have a local lockdown to try to eradicate COVID-0. For me, this theory, the COVID-0, we need to look at the countries who have done well, because as we all know, this approach that we had some countries like England have not worked, because we have one of the highest mortalities, 125,000 dead and counting, and it's impossible to control the virus. As soon as we go below there, there's an obsession the government wants to open because the economy. I always say we need to put people always first, the economy second. If we go all the way around, we still this like we happen now, in and out, playing the okey-cokey with this virus, and that only caused a lot of distress, a lot of death, and also the economy is not recovering. We have the world recession in Europe, and I think it's more to come.
Yeah, I think it's really important you highlight that. I'm afraid that it seems to be that debate we've been having for over a year now, where we go one step forward, 3 steps backwards. To me, anyway, I see it that way. I'd like to know what your experience has been, Joe, because you're a fellow. Obviously, you're a fellow EU citizen, and talk to our listeners about what you do on a day-to-day basis. What have you seen on the wards? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, as you can see, this accent is not a Yorkshire accent, despite living in Sheffield. I was born in Spain quite a few years ago, but I came to England in November 2000, nearly 21 years ago. I mean, I spent half of my life in this country, and I consider this is my home. I have a Spanish passport, but my heart is also English. My children are English, and my future and my career, I had it in this country, and I do love this country, and I want to live in a country the one that I was growing up admiring. I was growing up, I listened to the music of the Beatles, the Pet Shop Boys, and all these things, and also looking at the television program. My favorite ones was Blackadder, the young ones. I used to have a good laugh, and always when I was a teenager, I saw the fashion in London, the multicultural things that they're living in peace, and I said, "Whoa, wow, there's a country that I would like to, I admire." And then I came because I didn't doubt it. As a nurse, I could have gone anywhere in the world, but I chose England because I thought there was a good country. Things have changed a bit since Brexit, but I don't want to talk about the B war, but that also affected me, my mental health. And then COVID came around, and I've been a nurse for 23 years, and I don't work in the front line anymore. I work with quality improvement. My job is how to try to make the NHS better and more efficient with technology. That's what I do. And but because this pandemic, a year ago now, we had a meeting with the senior nurses, the senior staff in the hospital, and we had a plan. And I left my desk and I went to my wardrobe and took my uniform. And it was a bit tight because it was a few years since I last had it on. And I volunteered to go back to ICU because I had the ICU background. I thought, well, I cannot sit down in a desk and see how my colleagues are doing, because I'm a doer. Malika, you and me, we cannot sit down and wait for other people to do things. I'm the kind of person that if I can help, I help. If I need to have the hands dirty. I need to be able to look at my eyes of my son and say, look, I done everything I could to make situation better. And that's how my philosophy of my life is that. That's why I changed my uniform. I put my uniform on, and for the first wave and the second wave, I work in intensive care, and that's been very, very hard. It's been the hardest things I've done in my life, but also the one I'm more proud of, because I want to make a difference. That's what I became a nurse, and I think all my colleagues in the NHS in the front line have managed to make a difference, because if not, the numbers of death will probably have been a lot higher than there has been. The amount of work, sacrifice, and things we have done, I think, is incredible, but not just frontline. I think for the first time, we, as society, have realized who is important, and not the politician, not the rich people who can sit and hide at home. They've been the teachers. The people have discovered how important are teachers, because now suddenly all the kids are at home, and there's a lot of chaos. Then the nurses, for the first time in a lot of years, people have realized that we are more than just following doctor's orders and giving tablets and putting bedpans. We are a profession with a lot of knowledge, and with that knowledge, we have managed to save a lot of lives. And for that, I'm very proud. But also, it's been very, very hard. I needed help. I needed mental help, because the anxiety, the stress, the loneliness, also, and the fear. There was I had a lot of fear every time that I was going to work. Every time that I was putting all my PPE on, and I was through the double doors, I was conscious that I could catch it, and that could cost my life, because nearly 1,000 healthcare workers have died because of the coronavirus just in the United Kingdom, and that the anxiety also knowing that for me the worst nightmare was I could go home with the virus and pass it to my children, and that also had affected my private life. Very often, my wife and I have slept in different bedrooms, because especially when I was working in ICU, I didn't want to have any chances. I mean, instead of going home and cuddle my wife and my children, I spent over half an hour in the shower scrubbing everything, because I wanted to get rid of that. And then you added on a daily basis, you saw people dying, 2, 4, 5, 6 patients dying, and then so you feel angry a bit, and you feel frustrated, and because you want to do something, and also because of the volume of the patients. Often we had more than the ratio that we normally have. Normally in intensive care, you have 1 patient to 1 nurse. Because of the volume, often we had more than 1 patient. And these patients are very unstable. They can change in less than 3 minutes. And you feel guilty when suddenly you are with 1 patient doing the daily cares, and you know that patient, suddenly this is the blood pressure goes down and everything. And if the patient dies, then you think, could have done anything else different on that shift, and that keeps at the back of your mind, and because nobody prepares to see that many things. Only I do believe that only soldiers who go to war, they have a bit training on how to deal with these situations. For me, it was like a battlefield some days, and I see people crying. I cry a lot, but it's also affected me emotionally, because at the beginning, I did try to protect my family. I did try to protect my children. And I went home and I didn't tell anybody what I was seeing. And I'll try to cope on my own way, but that was impossible. And at the end, I still remember I started having nightmares and having the sleepless nights. And then I was very tired. It was like a vicious circle, because I didn't sleep well. I was very tired. And then my anxiety got worse, because if you are tired, you are more likely to make mistakes. And then I was conscious that any mistake could potentially could affect me, infect me with the coronavirus, and also take it home. And it was one point that I just had a panic attack. I had a panic attack. I still remember the day before, I couldn't sleep at all the night before, and I went to work, and I was going up the lift to my unit, and I started hyperventilating. I started going that, and then I sat on the chair, and everything went blank. And the next thing I remember is my ward manager saying, "Joe, are you okay?" And for some reason, then I start crying. I say, "No, I'm not okay."
Yeah.
And that for me was a turning point. Because then I got counseling. One good thing that I think is come out of the pandemic is that everybody now is more aware of mental health, and also for men like me, who normally tend to put things. I think it's become more acceptable to say that we have mental health problems, because they are normal. I think what I learned in the last few months is that our mental health is as important as our physical health. We're very good to, when we have a physical problem, to go to the doctor or to go to a diet and everything, but we are not very good when we have a mental health problem, anxiety or stress or anything, to do anything. We tend to brush under the carpet and hope that everything will go away. That is impossible.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head here, and I think it's just really upsetting that you've had to experience those kind of that you've had to experience all of this as a nurse working in ICU, and you know, it's great that you've gone back to the floor, really, so to speak, in terms of to help out your colleagues, really, and you know, you don't want to be sat down doing nothing. And I think, you know, we're talking about mental health over these past couple of episodes. I think you're right in terms of the fact men don't often say anything. They kind of, it's a taboo subject, or you get told to man up or whatever, and actually, you know, mental health affects anyone. It doesn't matter of your gender, and I think you're really we're on the same wavelength, really, aren't we?
Well, it's seen as a weakness. It's seen as also that if you have a mental health problems, you are not a good nurse. I still remember one of the first places that I went to work. One day that I had an argument with my girlfriend 20 years ago, I went to work and everything, and I was a bit down and everything. I still remember the matron took me apart and say, "Joe, you need to put yourself together. This is not professional. What you're doing today with this SAT and everything is not professional. To be professional, you need to leave all your feelings just outside the work." And that's when you're a young nurse, that's also kept in my head. That if you have to be professional, you need to be strong. You don't need to show weakness. And really, having a mental health problem is not a weakness. It's part of daily living. And I think what I learned, and for me, I want to encourage if any man watching this podcast, is that the bravest thing that anybody can do is ask for help. Absolutely. Because believe me, you cannot deal with the things we dealt during COVID alone. You need some help. You need to talk, counseling, or anything. Please talk to somebody, ask for help, because that's, for me, one of the bravest things. And you're not less of a man, you're not less as a father, less as a nurse. Otherwise, you, if you're aware, a lot more aware of all these feelings, you will be able to have a better balance and control that, and then you will be able to give better care, to be a better person. Because Absolutely. To be able to care for somebody else, you need to care for yourself first. You cannot care for anybody else if you are not caring and you not have this balance. And it's very difficult to have this balance with some help, without Absolutely. Some help.
And I think that's where it's great to have to hear you. And I think the pandemic has actually demonstrated that's particularly within the NHS, especially the nursing workforce, it's okay to not be okay, because you know, people now are thinking, right, we need to address this. How can we support our NHS staff in the future moving forward? And you know, me and Malik have had several conversations about, you know, teaching staff, all frontline services, really, about how can they be supported. And you know, we're just scratching the surfaces of this conversation here, but you know, to start to round up, you know, what would you say to people listening about how we kind of go through to the hopefully the final stages of COVID recovery? I mean, there's a long way ahead in terms of like waiting lists to fix, but in the immediate term, what can we do?
People need to carry on being careful. The virus will not go away. As everything looks towards the direction that this is going to be with us for a long years. It's going to be a bit like the flu. Every year will come, and the most vulnerable people will need to have a vaccine, and hopefully will, at some point, the science will be very clever and make the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine all together. And that's my prediction for a few years. But I think that the washing the hands, the hygiene and everything, that's also will be very important. And also the mask. I don't think the mask will go away. I recommend a bit like happened in Japan or other from the Asia. If you go to an underground or you go to a place where they're going to be very, very crowded, I think it's wise to wear a mask. Just for protection, not just for coronavirus, for other viruses like flu, other things, and then outside, we'll come back to a sort of normality. But as I say, we cannot think that this vaccine is like the magic wand who will banish the coronavirus forever. That will only what we will achieve with the vaccine will be control the coronavirus and basically avoid a lot of death from the majority of people. But it's not going away. I think it will be here for a long, long time.
I think you're completely right. You know, there's this whole thing about it's going to go away overnight, and I agree with the mask wearing, because actually, you know, this might sound really strange for me to say, but I think I've not had a cold or a cough this year. And normally, you know, you hit the cold season, you get some sort of tickly cough, but actually I haven't had one. And is that because I'm wearing a mask practically 24/7? Maybe, because it is respiratory. And I think you're completely right in terms of how people need to behave moving forward, because people might say, oh, it's just washing my hands, but you know, you carry so many germs on your hands, or surfaces just they sit there, don't they? And I think it's just the most basic things. Malika, you know, what's it like for yourselves, you know, with the kids?
Well, it's identical, really. We've got to, obviously, we as education practitioners, we have to reinforce all these rules, wash your hands frequently and wear your mask, and so keep your distance, etc. We do that, and we've done that right from the start, day in, day out. And as I said, thank you, Joe, for paying tribute to us, and you, Graham, because we have been the people that have kept this country going, really, all of us on the front line. And I feel that going forward, we cannot evolve in a society where what we used to have before can return. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I think we need to continue all of this. We need to continue social distancing. There are a lot of things that really basic hygiene that should have always been the case anyway.
Absolutely.
And it's about not being selfish, really. It's about understanding that what we do can impact others and can have a knock-on effect, major knock-on effect in various cases on those around us. So I agree with you. I feel that society as we've known it, I don't think it's going to return. And it's a bit of a utopia to be bandying around that now we've got a vaccine, we can just start behaving like we used to. It's irresponsible to do so. And it puts a major strain on those people who are already exhausted, with people just like Joe, who are exhausted. They're on their knees. We're all on our knees. And we need to look after each other a bit better.
Absolutely. I think I remember seeing something on social media, those memes that are going around where, it states England on the 21st of June will be, I think they use a picture from when someone won the World Cup or I don't know, I don't really follow football, but it's like, that's not what it's going to be like. Please continue to behave. And I think it was quite a bold statement for the government to say, oh, restrictions will end on the 21st of June. I know it's all data driven, but why would restrictions just turn off on one particular day? I think there needs to be some sort of move going forward, as Joe has said. Now, we did say we were going to talk about Brexit earlier, but obviously Joe kind of mentioned the B word and then moved on. But I think, us as a group of people, we're interested to talk about Brexit because it is having an impact. Now, people may say the best thing out of Brexit is the fact we can have our own vaccine program. Great, but what about all the rest of the rights that we've lost because of Brexit and etc.? And I may be being cynical, but I think people are really going to start facing the real issues of Brexit when they want to start going on holiday again, because they'll be joining the international queues at airports. So let's see what people say then. Hey.
But it's not only that. We cost per person around £110 a year. That's probably less than £10 a month. For that, you get free travel. You can live anywhere in the world. Free travel insurance, that people don't realize that. Free roaming charges. I mean, you don't pay any charges. That only for that is worth the tenner that we are paying. And on the top of that, there's also programs like Erasmus, programs like international cooperation, peace. We had the longest period of peace and everything. And now the consequences is seeing also that the trade with Europe has dropped significantly. And what makes me more angry that is not who are suffering is not the top, the elite who were pushing for Brexit. It's the fishermen, the farmers, the whole thing that they were in a way they were selling them a utopia, a unicorn, if you want to say it, because I do believe that they were playing with hope, and they were very clever. The Brexit campaign that they were playing with hope, and Cameron was awful. Because Cameron was playing with fear. Cameron say, if you don't continue in Europe, then they put the fear. If you put fear versus hope, everybody will choose hope. And I think that's why we ended up with Brexit, because all the people who had problems because the recession in 2008, and also the rhetoric of a lot of papers, they say, well, I want something different. And they're very clever, the Brexiteers, to picture this utopia that they will be different and that we'll have the cake and eat it. Well, I'm telling you now, the cake is out of date and it probably give you diarrhea. But that's all I want to say about Brexit, because I know this is a broadcast, but at the moment, I left my skin. Me and Malika.
You and I have talked.
Me and Malika have spent hours and hours trying to highlight. I've been it's a point now that I don't. I just given up on fighting Brexit. I just sit down and every time I read the news, say, I say that I eat popcorns and I let all the problems to go, because I arrived at the conclusion the only way to build a better country is to let it happen, because otherwise we'll be fighting against each other forever and ever.
Exactly.
And that's what I let it happen. Let it all go pear-shaped. And it's unfortunate a lot of people will lose their jobs, but I think when we are at rock bottom, then we will be able to rise again to the country that I fell in love 20 years ago.
I totally echo that in terms of you have to let go of the things you can't control. I mean, you and I, Joe, we've talked for hours, ever, haven't we? And let's face it, I mean, for me, for my mental health and my own, I can't control this. This has been a vision, and the best we can do now is just to keep going. You do this. We've got a lot of things to bring, and we are bringing them on the table.
Absolutely.
Everything else is just up to that maybe their choices haven't served them. If they have, great, good for them. But if the choices, and if they realize that what they were hoping for is not the table, this is out of our hands. This is really out of our hands now.
Absolutely. Just so people that are listening in and things like that stuff, Malika's having some technical issues today, so that's why the sound may be broken a little bit. And Malika, it might not affect in your end, but obviously it's certainly coming through a bit broken here. So obviously I've got the recording, so but it's fine. We know you're impassioned, and you can certainly see it coming through. And I think I hate to cut this conversation. I hate to cut every show short, but we've already got a certain amount of time. But I want to thank Joe for giving up his time today, just to talk about what it has been like as working in the NHS over the past 12 months, and obviously a bit of experience in terms of where it's back from. So I think what we're going to do now is to kind of say thank you very much, and obviously we do want to thank all our NHS heroes, don't we?
Yeah, thank you. But
we do indeed.
When you put the label of hero, also for me it makes it uncomfortable, because when you say heroes, it means that they are invincible, and we're not invincible. We're human beings. And if somebody keeps calling you a hero, that also will affect the people wanted to still help for mental health. That means that we're not heroes. We are very, very knowledgeable and with a lot of knowledge and techniques and practice, and we deserve to be recognized, not as a heroes, but what we really are, that we are professionals, very with a high caliber, and we, together with a lot of the teams in the NHS, we make a difference. And that's why also, but thank you for calling us heroes, but that heroes also mean that we are gifted naturally and we're invincible. We are not invincible. As I said to you before, and Malika said, we are very, very tired. If another wave comes, I don't think I can cope with another wave. I'll just hide in my home. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm at the limits at the moment of my resilience. And I think it's going to be in the next few months, a lot of my colleagues will need a lot of support to be able to care for the mental health. The pandemic may have come to an end soon, but the consequences of this pandemic will be lasting for a long, long time.
I think you're completely right in terms of COVID recovery. I think I'm completely right. Joe, thank you again for joining us, and definitely we should say thanks to our NHS professionals rather than our heroes, because we're all human at the end of the day, aren't we?
Exactly. Yes. Thanks, Joe. It's been great to see you again. See you. Bye.
Wow. So, Malika, what an absolute episode we've got here. So, I don't think there's much more we can say, really, is there?
No, there isn't. I think we need to hear Joe's voice and hear what Joe had to say and reflect on all of that and just make the choices. Again, it's a question of choices. As I was saying with my internet connection, that is extremely bad today. I do apologize.
No
But
need
it's
to
about the
apologise.
choices we're making as individuals and as a society. Collective individual choices. It's the theme of responsibility. This theme is something that I feel really passionate about. We have a responsibility towards people like Joe and towards each other.
So I think we're going to leave you with food for thought on that occasion. So you've been listening to the conversation. My name's Graham.
And I'm Malika.
And we hope to see you next time.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.